It's hard to beat a team twice. Will Georgia do just that against Ole Miss? Boy, we shall find out. Stephen Willis of Locked On Ole Miss is here to discuss that fact. Stephen, how do you think Georgia has won the game, if they have in fact won the game? What does it look like to you? What has happened?
Basically, in my opinion, this is the simplest game that Ole Miss will play all season, because by simple, I don't mean easy. I just mean simple. And if Georgia can run the ball effectively, they are going to win the game. If Ole Miss can hold Georgia to about 150 yards rushing, Ole Miss is likely going to win the game. It really is that simple. Now, it's easier said than done, but there are signs that what happened in October will not happen on January 1st. The defense has gotten remarkably better. I tell people all the time, Ole Miss was in love with the drop 8 defense in the early part of the season. They had 5 sacks through like 6 games in the early part of the season. The Georgia game exposed that. Pete Golding went to the stuff that made last year's defense so good. And next thing you know, they have 20 sacks in the next 5 games. The defense is holding their own against the run game. And that look, if you can get a stop, if you can force a field goal from time to time on this Georgia offense, if you can get them in long yardage, the defense has a chance to get really successful against Georgia, and the game could look a lot like last year's game as opposed to the October game.
I'm glad you brought up the Georgia running game, because it's been the number one thing I've talked about with the Bulldogs all season long. And I have to credit their offensive staff, their offensive line coach, everybody, because they have made significant strides from a year ago. I think 2026 could be a breakout year for Nate Frazier. He's already having a really good season, but I think that what the Georgia backfield has been able to do to help Gunnar Stockton has been really, really big for the Georgia offense. But here's my thing, Steve. I get where you're coming from on it. Simple, take away the run. I don't think it's that simple, because Georgia has made more of an effort from what I've seen this year to be balanced. But if you tell me right now, Georgia's only going to run for around 100 yards, it's going to be under 4 yards a carry, it's going to be a slugfest. I have been a Gunnar Stockton fan for a while. I trust him to drop back and try to throw for 300 to 350 yards against this Ole Miss defense, if that is what is required. I don't think that's game plan number one. It's not plan A for Georgia and Mike Bobo, the offensive coordinator. If it comes to that, though, I think the weapons that he's got, the way that he's playing, I'm a huge Gunnar Stockton fan. I think he's a great big game quarterback. The Tennessee game is one that pops into my head in particular, as a matchup that I saw where Georgia ran the ball decently well, but he had to carry the load. He had to go up and down the field. They were trailing. He brought them back. I have a lot of confidence in Gunnar Stockton if Georgia doesn't run the ball very well in this game. What is your confidence in Ole Miss's pass defense?
Better than it was. In the early part of the season, the reason they were doing the drop 8 was kind of to protect them a little bit, because there were new players hopping in, Sage Ryan, Wyatt Williams, all of those guys on the back end of the defense. There's not a true free safety that Ole Miss has had the previous 5 years. So people got a little bit nervous about what was going on, because you all know the transfer portal can be a pull of a slot machine in this day and age. They kind of like, hey, we're going to take some explosive plays from here or there in the pass game to shut down the run game, because you don't want to lose to Georgia by death by 1,000 cuts, whether it's 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2, 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2. That's how they have a 9-minute drive and completely chew you up. In the fourth quarter, that happened in Sanford Stadium against Ole Miss happens. They're okay with giving up an explosive 70-yard pass to Zach Branch if that's what happens. They don't want to give up a 17-play drive to Georgia that eats up half the clock and ends up taking away a possession or two from your offense, which is the strength of the team.
See, that's fascinating to hear, because typically you hear it in the exact opposite way. Hey, we don't want to give them an easy drive. We'll make them earn their way down the field. Death by 1,000 cut. Bend but don't break. But I actually see the point you're making, because this Ole Miss offense is built to get up and down the field and win a shootout. And that's what it was in the first matchup, of course. Now, on the other side, I think one of the biggest differences besides the coaching staff, of course, between the first matchup in Athens and what we're getting in the Sugar Bowl, right? Sugar Bowl, I got that right in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I think Georgia's defense has started to look like the Georgia defense again. That SEC championship game against Alabama, when you look at what they put on the field against a great Oklahoma defense on the road in the first round of the playoff, I was, of course, impressed with what Alabama did there. But then it made me think, wait a minute, Georgia just made them look inept. It's why I picked Oklahoma to win the game. I thought it'd be rinse and repeat. The Alabama offense hadn't been phenomenal in the last several weeks. But that Georgia defense, they look like they are playing faster, more physically. You can't run on them super well. I think that Georgia defense is the biggest difference from the last meeting. Do you think I'm crazy?
No, it is better. It genuinely is better than what you saw in the beginning of the season. But part of that has to do, in my opinion, with offenses that you match up well against. Like they played Texas, and they completely chewed up Texas in Athens, Georgia. And Arch Manning was put in a blender for basically that whole game. Texas is consistently a bad matchup for that defense. They do a lot of the pin and pull running game, the slow developing stuff that the speed of the Georgia defense just eats up. Gary Patterson says there's no way that would work, that you can't do stuff like that. They played against Alabama, good team. Quarterback, a little bit injured, no Jam Miller. Those did not help with the pass game, which all of a sudden Georgia knew you're going to throw the ball because you have to. And the other one against Georgia Tech and against Charlotte, that's fine. I'm not saying it's fool's gold. That's not what I'm saying. Please don't hear that. I'm saying I think we need to see how they perform against an offense like Ole Miss that went up and down the field on them. I don't know if we have 100% an idea, because the best player on the football field the first time these two teams met was Daquan Wright, the tight end. He doesn't get any pub. Georgia's linebackers could not cover him. And in the fourth quarter, when Trinidad Chambliss was struggling and Georgia had that epic comeback to win the game, there were still wide open passes to Daquan Wright that he just spiked. He just missed. That would have been 40, 45-yard gains. So I am curious to see what the defense looks like for the Georgia Bulldogs moving forward. Now, we've all seen this defense before with Kirby Smart and Nick Saban and all of that. They are really good in rematches, and they are really good at taking away what you're best at. And maybe the fact that Daquan Wright was not being paid attention to going into the game is the reason he was able to break loose, and they're going to shift the focus to him. I'm just saying, I don't entirely trust the pass rush yet whenever they don't know for 100% that you're going to throw the football. And Texas's offensive line was really bad. I think it's a wait and see type thing. This isn't the 2019 Georgia Bulldogs lining up. Now, they're still good. They're still 5 stars everywhere, but it's not those guys.
I agree. It's not the defense that carried them back-to-back national championships. I've just, from an eye test standpoint, watched them and went, man, Georgia Tech's a pretty good offense. They could move the ball. Alabama can do, and Georgia Tech likes to run it. Alabama likes to throw it. Didn't matter. No one could really do anything. Kirby Smart with extra time to prepare, and I don't think that he was wasting any time diving into the Tulane game film. I think he's been prepping for Ole Miss for quite a while. It is indeed hard to beat a team twice, but let's get to our predictions here, Steven. I do think Georgia gets that done. I don't think it's quite as high scoring as last time. I think that's because of the Georgia defense, as I mentioned. I'm going 28-20. Georgia wins, and I'll take them to cover the 6.5 provided by our friends at FanDuel. Over under in this game, they think there could be plenty of points. 55.5, highest of any of the 4 quarterfinal matchups.
Interesting. I'm going to go with Ole Miss 27, Georgia 21. No team that has had a bye has won to this point a college football playoff game. The layoff is no joke. It's almost a month between Georgia playing football and now, and Ole Miss got to knock the cobwebs off about a week ago. So I expect the Rebels to come out guns a-blazing in this game.
I hear you on that, except that Georgia was in the exact same spot last year, and I think Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart both will have learned the lessons of a long layoff and playing at this point. Now, Lanning got the tune-up against James Madison, but I think Kirby will make adjustments in how he gets his team ready to play this game after not having played since December 7th was the SEC championship game. This college football calendar, it really stinks.
Yeah, here's the thing about that. In my opinion, we don't know what those lessons are at this point because nobody has won a game that's had a bye week.
That's true. We will see. He's Stephen Willis, Locked On Ole Miss. Great as always. Did you want a little portal chatter? You're gonna get some because Oklahoma State might be making some big time moves.